Everything changes in a matter of seconds in this league. A blown coverage, a bad read, one awkward hit, and an entire season flips upside down. But sometimes you can actually see the storm brewing from miles away. Welcome to NFL Nexus. In today's explainer, we're breaking down a massive collision course up north, one that literally has the entire league holding its breath right now. We're looking at a brutal battle of wills, a fight for survival, and a struggle for pure franchise supremacy in Minnesota. Look, the stakes for the Vikings this year, they are absolutely astronomical. The front office has essentially pushed all their chips right into the center of the table, and the weight of an entire fan base's expectations is bearing down on one single position. We're diving deep into a quarterback controversy that is going to dictate the entire 2026 season. And I need you to understand, this isn't just about who throws the football. Not even close. This is about legacy. It's about millions upon millions of dollars in salary cap implications, and honestly, the very foundation of this team's future.
Everything changes with one decision. I really want you to think about the gravity of that statement for a second. For a head coach in the National Football League, naming a starting quarterback isn't just, moving a little magnet around on a whiteboard in a closed office. It's a franchise-altering crossroads. It is the exact moment a team's identity is forged for the entire year. The quarterback dictates the entire ecosystem of a 53-man roster. Think about it. The offensive line? They need to know the exact cadence, the exact pitch and rhythm of the voice calling out the Mike linebacker before the snap. The wide receivers have to calibrate their break steps and their route depths to the exact arm velocity and release point of the guy under center. Even the defensive scout team shifts its entire focus based on who is taking the first team reps that week. So when you have two players who are both absolutely desperate to claim that ultimate title of QB1, the tension in the building just becomes palpable. It literally seeps into every single meeting room, every film session, and every single snap taken in practice. Because if a coaching staff gets this wrong, the ripple effect tears through the entire depth chart. We are talking about dictating job security from the offensive coordinators all the way down to the quality control assistants. That's what's on the line here.
So let's look at the combatants. On one side of the ledger, you have the incoming veteran challenger, Kyler Murray. And on the other side, you have the young incumbent, J.J. McCarthy. This is a classic, high-stakes showdown of contrasting pedigrees. You've got Murray, a former #1 overall pick, a player with this elite, game-breaking mobility who has already experienced the absolute peaks of NFL stardom, but also the crushing, suffocating weight of massive expectations. Bringing a veteran of his specific caliber into the building? Well, that speaks volumes, right? It's an action that, in and of itself, reveals the team's brutal assessment of their current quarterback room. They felt they needed him. And then you have McCarthy, the incumbent. The highly drafted young prospect who is desperately trying to hold on to his territory and prove to everyone that he is the undisputed future of this franchise. We know for a fact that the planned quarterback competition in Minnesota is a legitimate one. There's no fake battle for the cameras here. And honestly, a lot of people across the league believe that Murray is positioned to win this starting job outright. But just the sheer dynamic of these two desperate careers colliding on the exact same practice field, it creates an atmosphere of just relentless, boiling pressure.
I hear people say, competition brings out the best in everyone. But let's be real. This isn't a fun little competition. Sure, these two men are technically teammates. They wear the same practice colors, they sit in the exact same offensive meetings every morning, but make absolutely no mistake, they both want to be the franchise quarterback, and only one man can take the field with the starting offense on opening day. Splitting first-team reps in a training camp, it's a total nightmare for offensive rhythm. Every single drill they run becomes a zero-sum game. Think about it. If Murray steps up and completes a tight window throw in 7-on-7 drills, you better believe McCarthy feels the temperature in that room spike immediately. Every intercepted pass in what's supposed to be a meaningless Tuesday walkthrough, every slight hesitation on a read option, it shifts the balance of power. The film room basically turns into a courtroom. Every single micro decision is scrutinized, weighed, and judged by a coaching staff that is desperately looking for any definitive edge. There are no participation trophies in the NFL. There's only the starter and the backup.
Section 1. August 21st. The deadline. A massive quarterback decision looms.
So let's look at how this is actually going to play out, because this timeline right here is essentially a ticking clock for both of these men. First, you have the grueling weeks of training camp, the proving ground where every single mistake is magnified under a microscope. But the latest news coming out of Minnesota points to a very specific duration for this battle, and it reveals head coach Kevin O'Connell's master plan. Look closely at that middle date, August 19th. The Vikings are going to hold joint practices with the Baltimore Ravens. Now, if you know football, you know joint practices are notorious in the NFL for being intense. But joint practices against the Ravens, that is an entirely different nightmare.
John Harbaugh's defenses are built on disguised coverages, complex simulated pressures, and just absolute physical dominance. It is going to be a chaotic, hostile environment. This is not your controlled, sterile setting of an inter-squad scrimmage where your own defenders are strictly told not to even breathe on the quarterback in the red jersey. The Ravens' defense? They are not going to care one bit about the Vikings' internal quarterback battle. They are coming to Minnesota to disrupt, to hit, and to intimidate. It is an absolute crucible where a quarterback's composure is tested against a totally different colored jersey. And then, exactly 2 days after that brutal exam against Baltimore, on August 21st, the expected decision drops. That Ravens practice is the ultimate, unforgiving test before the pencils finally have to be put down.
The clock is ticking, and it's ticking loud. Every single day that passes is a day closer to that August 21st deadline. Every day is a shrinking window of opportunity. It's a closing door, for either Murray to prove he is the undisputed leader, or for McCarthy to prove he simply cannot be unseated. Behind closed doors, the reality of this countdown is absolutely suffocating. What it means is late-night coaching staff meetings, guys burning the midnight oil to evaluate every frame of practice tape. It means whispers among the veteran players in the cafeteria about who actually commands the huddle better when the bullets are flying. The pressure is mounting exponentially as that joint practice with Baltimore looms closer and closer on the calendar.
Section 2. Let's talk about Murray's redemption opportunity.
So recently, The Athletic released a highly scrutinized list. They rounded up the players across the entire NFL with the most on the line going into the 2026 season. And Kyler Murray made that cut. But here's the thing. Being on this list isn't necessarily a negative thing for him. Actually, it is a monumental, life-changing opportunity. Listen closely to these words from Alec Lewis of The Athletic. Quote, "Every season presents opportunities for certain players to rewrite the narrative around their careers. This fall, Murray is one of those players. That's why he signed with the Vikings, and partly why the Vikings signed him. They believe the fit will be mutually beneficial." End quote. To rewrite the narrative. You see, in the National Football League, your narrative is your currency. It's everything. And Murray's current narrative carries some real baggage right now. Past injuries, lingering questions about consistency, the ghosts of past contract controversies. The Vikings brought him in because they desperately need a stabilizer at the most important position in sports. But Murray needs a stage for absolute redemption. This right here, this training camp is his last best shot to erase all those doubts and prove to the world he is still a premium, franchise-caliber talent.
And think about what happens if Murray actually succeeds. The ultimate prize for him is staggering. It's almost hard to comprehend. If he can go out there, win this job outright, and actually win games for Minnesota, he sets off a massive domino effect. First, obviously, he enters the season establishing himself undeniably as a starter in this league again. Second, he begins the incredibly difficult process of changing the way he is viewed by all 32 general managers around the league. And third, and let's be honest, perhaps most importantly for his personal future, he sets himself up for a massive free agent deal next spring. Guys, we aren't just talking about playing time here. We are talking about generational wealth. The going rate for a starting quarterback in this league right now is exploding. A proven starter easily commands $40 to $50 million a year. Let that sink in. We're talking about a player who is highly motivated to secure a massive 9-figure financial future. That is the kind of motivation that makes a player unstoppable in training camp.
Section 3. A warning from McCarthy.
Now I want you to take all of that immense motivation we just talked about, all of that intense drive for redemption and a massive life-altering contract. Take all of that and put yourself in the shoes of the young incumbent. Alec Lewis from The Athletic sees this year as being a massive opportunity for Murray, but for J.J. McCarthy? Consider this a very real warning. That is the sheer terror of his reality right now. Think about his position. He's young. He is carrying the incredibly heavy burden of his draft capital, not to mention the expectations of a starving fan base that just wants a winner. When you have a seasoned veteran in your quarterback room who is fighting not just for a roster spot, but to literally rewrite his entire career narrative and secure a massive payday, that veteran is going to bring a level of desperation and kinetic intensity to practice that is incredibly difficult for a young guy to match. Kyler Murray is not in Minnesota to be a mentor. He is not there to hold a clipboard and teach a young prospect how to read a defense. He is a mercenary, and he is there to conquer. This looming veteran threat is a direct challenge to McCarthy's livelihood. The fear of losing his grip on his NFL dream, the fear of being branded a disappointment before his career even truly takes off, that is a psychological burden McCarthy has to carry onto the practice field every single day. The young incumbent has absolutely been put on notice.
So what we are witnessing is a literal clash of psychologies operating on the exact same practice field. On one side, you have Murray's motivation, The pursuit of an empire, a massive spring contract, the rewriting of a legacy, the ultimate redemption arc. On the other side, you have McCarthy's motivation, pure, unadulterated survival against a highly motivated veteran threat. This isn't just X's and O's anymore, folks. It's not just playbook knowledge. This is raw human desperation. This is the heavy, suffocating pressure that is building within the Vikings locker room right now, where two incredibly different sets of stakes are colliding head-on. One guy is playing to resurrect a kingdom, the other is playing just to survive his first major professional threat.
Section 4. Let's zoom out and look at the franchise implications.
So why does this specific grueling battle raise such serious questions about Kevin O'Connell's overarching plan for this team? It's simple, because an NFL front office simply cannot afford to get this wrong. The entire duration of this competition, pushing it right up to that absolute August 21st deadline, it shows a franchise that is taking this decision down to the absolute wire. They're sweating this out. Whatever happens after those chaotic, brutal joint practices with the Ravens is going to completely define the 2026 season for Minnesota. It will dictate their offensive identity, it will dictate their locker room dynamic, and ultimately it will determine whether O'Connell's vision for this team comes to fruition or if it completely falls apart before September even begins. So the question remains, when the dust finally settles on August 21st, after the grueling, hot days of camp, after the brutal Ravens joint practices test their very limits, who will hold the keys to the Minnesota Vikings franchise? And whose narrative will be absolutely shattered? Will the veteran secure his ultimate redemption, or will the young incumbent survive the storm and claim what he believes is his? The entire league is watching. Thank you so much for diving into the gridiron with us today. Look, if you want to stay ahead of every crucial moment, every roster move, and every piece of drama in the league, you absolutely need to be a part of NFL Nexus. Subscribe to the channel right now. Like this explainer so we can keep bringing you these deep dives into the stories that actually matter. And hey, I want to hear from you. Comment down below right now. Who do you think wins this battle? Is it Murray or is it McCarthy? Let's get a debate going. And if you really want to take your support to the next level and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access, consider becoming a channel member today. Until next time, keep your eyes on the clock because August 21st is coming fast.